It's just different.
Welcome to the In the Mind of Gary. He is I, and I am him. The podcast where I talk about different things in my life or different things in my mind that I think need to be discussed. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. But at the end of the day, we just speaking, right? This is my platform to do what I like with it. And there's a bunch of things to talk about from coast to coast, sea to sea. We're not the only people in the world. This world is large. Episode 16. We are not the only country with social media. I'm sure everyone knows that, but it seems like it would be easy to understand that social media is an American thing, but it is not. And I'm doing something a little different today. I'm in my bathrobe. I'm in my Hugh Hefner, because honestly, it's late night and my guest was like, oh, I can talk to you now. And I didn't want to get dressed. So here we are in the Playboy, Hugh Hefner, for no reason at all. But that's just how we doing it, because in my mind, I didn't see a need to get dressed. So we're going to talk to Heather today. And Heather is just going to give us some of her expertise on the social media, on its in China, which is its accessibility, why people don't really understand that you cannot access Google platforms in China. You need a VPN. So really that part of the world really doesn't get up-to-date information on what's going on over here. And if you're American and you go over there, or anything, if you go over there and you have Google platforms such as Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, any of those social media platforms, you literally, your communication is halted, period. And that's give love to Jesus. I need ya. I don't know why I love this track. I just do, because it gets me pumped up. Thank you, Lord. I need ya. Okay, I'm ready to go now. I'm ready to talk. God has given me the gift. And here we are. We're gonna let's go right into talking to Heather. Let's see what that's about. Let's see if we can call her.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. You are formally being recorded by In My Mind. Okay, we took a long time to get here, but I am glad that we are finally here.
Wow, thank you so much for the compliment.
Yeah.
I'll try to live up to that.
Yeah, exactly. So first of all, good morning, because in your side of the world, it's early morning, correct?
Yeah, it's not that early, but it is the morning, so thank you.
Okay, yeah. And really what I was trying to bring to light was in China, all the social media platforms that, let's be honest, the majority of the world just doesn't know about. It's like you have your own social media world on that side, you know. And I just want to bring some light to that and get people to understand what it really is, and you know, because people just don't understand it. I understand it because I live there, but outsiders, they really don't know what it means when you say, "Oh, I need a VPN to look at this." You know. So I want, and I know that you know, first of all, can you start off by telling us what you do in terms of the social media platforms and your connections between what you do for a living on social media to connect the African nation and Chinese nations, and just tell us a little bit about what you do in the social media market.
Yeah, sure. So I'm not completely specialized in social media. It's just one of the things that I do, but I'm focusing on PR and media relations, and then helping African. Yeah, it is my vision to help more African brands to enter the Chinese market. And this year, I've been exploring a bit more with the Chinese social media platforms myself as well. I especially noticed that like short video platforms are increasingly popular. Yeah, it is a good way to capture like the bigger Chinese market. Yeah, so I've opened a WeChat account and a WeChat channel, and yeah, kind of doing some experiments myself as well.
Okay, so that's dope. I mean, that's real. But you said something interesting that I actually wanted to bring up later, but we could go right into it now. Why is it so important for the world to enter the Chinese social media market? Besides there being a billion people, why is the world trying so hard to enter into Chinese social media? And why is most of the world not successful?
Obviously, I've been like living here for a while, so I have lost that perspective of outsider looking in. So I'm kind of getting used to that. But I think because like the Chinese social media or language in general, I feel like it's always been like a bit separate from like all the English language platforms that everybody else uses. So it's kind of its own world, and it has over a billion people in it. So that creates different dynamics, a lot of subcultures, and yeah, like so many brands or companies, they definitely see the potential in Chinese market just by the number. And so I think everybody wants to get into like the regular Chinese consumer's mind. And then for us, social media is a big part of our lives, kind of growing up and how that's shaping like the way we interact with each other or forming like social identity. And I felt like, yeah, social media was like a big part of it because we grew up on like the first Tencent, QQ, like where everybody started using in like elementary school or middle school. And then like all these things, it's just changed a lot. And so that's, yeah, to get into like a Chinese consumer's mind is through social media.
Yeah. So how long you been living in China now? Well, you're from Beijing, right?
Yeah, I'm from here, and yeah, so pretty much have been here all my life, and besides the 5 years that I spent in the U.S.
Okay, so my question to you is, because you spent time in the U.S., this would be interesting to ask you. So we're going to break this conversation up into three sections. The first section is why do you feel like social media landscape has changed so drastically in China? You've seen it, so I'm assuming that you were brought up as a child in your native land, and then you left for 5 years to come to America, which means you have experience from then when social media probably wasn't that big when you was a child or a teenager to going to America where, let me see, when did you live in America? In early 2000s? When were you in America?
I'm not that old. So 2012, 2017.
Okay, so you recently, this is recently, we only talking maybe 3-4 years ago. And
Right.
and now coming back to China, tell me how you've noticed the landscape change in China, and why do you think it's drastically changed so much? Why has it elevated so much?
How much cell phones are being used here? I mean, like everywhere else, like people use cell phones. It's there, but then I feel like in China, it's being used so much more. Like people don't use their laptops as much. And I remember when I was first just visiting Beijing, sometimes like I didn't have my mobile card, and so like I spent a lot of time just people watching when I was on subways, and then just noticed how much time like everybody was looking at their phones and like watching movies on their phones like all the time, and I thought that was so interesting. But now, like after 3 years, I realized like I spend a lot of time on my phone as well. So that's funny. So yeah, so and then since there are some super apps like WeChat, where it's everything that you need to do in life is integrated in this one app where you have to pay with your WeChat or go on subways or different things that you can do. So that's like a central point of people's daily lives. And then, yeah, then you'd be like sharing what's happening or your thoughts. And then like it creates different circles as well because it's also like a closed ecosystem. Yeah, so just people, because growing up, you don't use cell phones as much, and then in teenage years, and then you use it more, and then there were different platforms back then, and I think social media was always a way like helping people shape their identity, like how you want to be seen in society, and for our generation who grew up with it, and then it's like all experimental, and then I guess since the platforms are evolving and our social behavior statuses have changed, so like it just become very integrated into our lives.
So you think like it as like, so you think so my question to you is, would it be the technology or the physical acceptance of technology would be the main cause of the evolution of the China social media? Meaning like, so is it like the QR codes and the algorithms and all of that stuff that has made China social media so valuable? Or is it the fact that now the country literally just has access to phones and all of that good stuff that they may not have had access to 20 years ago?
I think definitely both. Because in terms of technology, like Chinese tech firms have always been like kind of one step ahead of everyone else, and they're like related technology, 5G, and AR, like all kinds of things. And then also, I guess, the accessibility as well, because I felt like everywhere else in the world, like, for example, like the older generation, they are slower to adapt. But in China, like, I realized that, like, so many older generations, they're spending a lot of time on their phones. And when I first got back, like, my mom was the one who kind of introduced me to, like, do things with your phone, like buy groceries or things that I wasn't even aware of. So that's, like, very interesting that, like, people are so adaptive to, like, the new technology. And, all of that is very interesting.
Okay. And so, right. So I think that's like a super interesting thing to where, like, like on the outside looking in, you can see the evolution of a country, right? But until you've been inside, you don't really know how evolved China is. You know what I mean? So I just thought that was really interesting to discuss. So, but with that being said, so I guess that'll lead me right into the next point, which is now that social media is so accessible, and everyone's using it, because essentially in China, like, there's no more, like, there's no cash, there's no nothing. So social media really is way of life. But it's only way of life if you're using the Chinese networks, meaning you can't use Instagram and Facebook and all the Google systems. So tell me why you think it's important, or what are the benefits of silencing people on social media in China? Like what is the benefit of not being able to say what you want on social media in China? What's the benefit? We know what the non-benefit is, but what's the benefit of that?
But yeah, it's a very interesting question that you asked. I think a lot of people just don't think about like their both sides and everything. Um, yeah, I guess for me, I've always like I don't really felt silenced initially. Yeah, like I didn't really felt like Chinese social media is silencing people in the way that maybe how the outside world perceived, because there were always like not underground, but just like there's still different platforms where people share their opinions and thoughts, but maybe just in a more subtle way, or they find creative solutions of expressing themselves. And so like I don't feel like it's completely like people don't they can't speak out their mind. I feel like everybody still do. They just speak it in a different way than through like official channels.
So,
And especially like these days, I really felt like there's so much creativity and people are very open-minded. In Chinese like social media, you can read news or analysis or opinions about everything that's happening in the world. Like I never felt like there is an information delay where when I was overseas, sometimes the kind of information I heard about China or other parts of the world just felt quite delayed or not so accurate. So I feel like in that sense, yeah, like not like being silenced in the official channels give people more room to talk in their personal ways. And also there's less unnecessary debates, I guess, because I guess really like in the West, everything.
Well, but you say there's less.
Like the Me Too movement.
So you say there's less unnecessary debates, but the debates are the unnecessary debates are definitely still happening on Weibo and WeChat in the groups. So would you say that the debates have gone from the main platform into the sub platforms? But they're still there. They're definitely still there because you and I both have been involved in some group debates.
The debates are probably so they're just more in the sub platforms. And and another thing I noticed that like there's still like a little bit of separation of people's online personalities and their real lives.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for example, like I've seen people like getting fired for saying something on Twitter, and then like that's kind of being criticized on like Chinese social media because it's like all about like PC, and then I felt like you can't say what you want to say even in the West because it's so like there are real life consequences. Not that like saying that like their opinions are right, but if we're talking about freedom or like being able to say what you want to say, then I don't know like if it's that different or like where people are actually being silenced.
Well, yeah, you're not being silenced. So I guess that would be a judgmental way of saying it. But when I say being silenced, like you're definitely more aware of what you say based off of being monitored. Right. So like, for example, I know just from my experience of living there with you in China, I know we would be having conversations on the phone. I can have a conversation on the phone with someone. And like right now, if I was like, hey, what do you think about President Xi? Your response would be what?
Informative opinion.
Exactly. What I'm saying to you is, so yes, you have the freedom to speak still, but you're still under a more watchful eye than I would say as in another country, right? Whereas other countries are also being watched and monitored, like they also watch what we say and what we want and what we do, but it's more like the consequences are different. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I just feel like I haven't thought about these things for a while. So it's nice to have this discussion so I can think more critically. I think there's just pros and cons, and not having to say certain things also gives you maybe a sense of safety, or like if everybody has an agreed opinion on like the main things, and I don't know if I actually mind it. But then like they're just different benefits. What else? But I do feel like since there's the barrier of like having to use the VPN to access other social media platforms, and people can't really get into like the Chinese platforms as well. There's just a big information gap, or the stories that are happening here don't have the channel to be seen outside. And so that's creating like miscommunication or misunderstandings. So I do feel like it'd be nice to have more of a flow.
Yes, and for our listeners, I just want to say this because it is very true. Like here in America, right? People don't understand first of all, they don't understand what a VPN is, and they don't understand.
So maybe you can explain what VPN is.
Yeah. So first of all, it's a virtual number, P number. I forget what the P stands for, but what it does, it's a blocker, right? So it's a blocker for IP addresses. So when you use your phone or you get on the internet, if you use a VPN, it blocks the IP address so that the people watching or Big Brother cannot tell where you are. It can't pinpoint your location. Okay, that's the importance. That's why you need VPN to use Google platforms in America, because it all comes down to your data. They can get your IP address. They can find out where you are. They can, get your data, things like that. And it's also very important to tell people to understand that VPNs and the blocking of networks and things like that all comes down to politics and money. Okay. The only reason why Google is not a set up system in China is because China doesn't need it. They can make their own money from Baidu. And I haven't been there so long. What's the other one? And I remember living over there. People would say, well, why can't you use Facebook, or why can't you use Google to call me? I'm like, look, sometimes the VPN just gets turned off and I'm just cut off from the world. That's the truth. Right. So here's the question for you, Heather. Here's the question for you, Heather. And I would like if you could just give me a quick answer, like a yes, no answer, being the professional in this conversation. Do you find social media helpful or harmful in its limitations?
To cough.
Yeah, I'm saying you're getting choked up. There must be something. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. You're getting choked up, Heather. I see. I told you. You're scared. You're scared to say what you want to say. That's what this is all about.
I know we're having conversation on WeChat, so you know.
I know. Well, listen. So I'm just asking your opinion. We haven't named any social media platforms except for that one, and you know what I mean. We haven't said anything political. So
just in general, just generally, if social media is more meaningful or harmful.
Yeah.
That's
the question.
I don't think it's a yes or no question.
It is, in your opinion. I'm asking for your opinion. It's either yes, I think it's harmful, or no, I don't think it's harmful. I
don't think it is.
Okay. Because in my mind, I think social media is harmful, right? I think it's good for exposure. I think it's good for, touching people, networking, things like that. But it's very harmful because you've created a whole world and culture of people who are harming themselves mentally, emotionally, just to be on TV, just to be liked. You understand? You understand what that really means? Like, social media comes down to how many likes you have. That means you have to be, people out here are really just stressing themselves to put themselves in a position to be judged and to be liked, including me for doing this. So that is harmful because we are creating. We are creating. Yeah, this it's terrible. So so I do want to talk about one more portion of this. But before we do, I need you to help me out. Is I'm going to give you a letter, and you are going to create as many words from that letter as you can. You cannot use names though. So, for example, if I say the letter A, you want to say as many words that begin with the letter A that you can in 30 seconds without using a name. Got it? All right, here we go. Because you are a good friend of mine, I'm going to let you pick the letter. Okay. All right. Letter G. You got 30 seconds. Let's see how many words you can come up with. Ready, set, go.
Wait, sorry. Any words? Any words start with a G.
Any words that start with
garden, great, gossip, God, gorgeous, golf, what else? Great.
All right. So,
right? Yeah, my great.
Way harder than you expect it to be, you know. So that's just a little brain game teaser that we like to do. So the third part of that conversation we were talking about is how do, in your opinion, how do foreigners get into the Chinese media social market? What's your advice for any outsider trying to get a piece or a portion of the Chinese social media market?
Like in terms of
followership, in terms of being followed, in terms of monetizing, in terms of being an influencer, those type of things. What's your advice?
Well, I thought you said social media is harmful, but
it is harmful for me. In my opinion, in my mind, it's harmful.
But we wouldn't have connected if it wasn't for social media. So
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Again, so do you think what do you think is a good, like, what's good? Like, give some advice. Give the people some advice. How do you get into the China social media market?
Yeah, I think it's quite. You can definitely leverage on like a lot of the platforms that are like hiring influencers, live streamers. Like types of Chinese social media platform that's encouraging foreigners to join them, and then with cash incentives. And then, I guess it's a good way of having your little corner of the Chinese social media. And then just collaborate with other social media influencers. There are like other foreigners that have been in China longer, and they have been in the space. They have cultivated a good audience and following. So if you can work with them to get on their own channels, then that's also a way to brand yourself.
So you think, so if I'm a beginner and I want to get into the Chinese media market, your advice would be to collaborate first, to essentially piggyback off of an influencer's followership, right? Which is an excellent strategy, because I mean that's no different than what we're doing on this side. So, but the problem that I have that I think that I'd like you to elaborate on is, as a foreigner, Getting into the social media market is a little different because of the language barrier and the content. So what advice would you give a foreigner in terms of what content to use and how to construct the language?
Popular, there are like different comedians, and they're the ones who speak really good Chinese and can even be funny in Chinese, which I guess is like the that shows you're a master of a language where you can make jokes.
Right.
So those are usually very like those are the more popular content. And otherwise, just you can be more relevant to like the pop culture and current affairs here, and then maybe you can add in your own perspective, but also just make sure like it's topics just I guess another way is like just make Chinese friends and then like in your conversations and find what people find interesting, and then you can turn that into something that's facing a bigger audience.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. So what you do is, again, I could be wrong, but you have a network between Africa and China, correct? You promote a lot of African business in China, correct?
Yes, a small number of them.
Okay, so well, you do business, all right? So whether it's small, whether it's large, you connect, right? So in that connecting process, what are some of the pros and what are some of the cons of dealing with the continent of Africa and in bringing that market into the Chinese market?
Well, I think it's generally like pretty young space because I feel like it's only been happening the last couple of years, and so for now, like what I'm seeing is more like it's either just like comedians or cultural related content, or it's more like high level stuff. So like the ambassadors going on live streaming and selling African products. So yeah, I feel like there's still like a lot of space in between to actually build the awareness and engagement between Chinese audience and products or brands from Africa, and then also for the market to like accept something new because it's still like very niche. And so I think there just needs to be more content being made and more informative ways of engaging the Chinese audience.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you for that. Thank you for that insight. So Heather, I know that you have things to do, and you need to get your day started. So that is all the time I'm going to take up for you, or from you, I should say. But before I let you go, can you just leave the guest with parting words? Anything you want to say? Plug your nation. The dot connect the world, and just any last words that you'd like to leave people to know when they listen to this and they say, Heather was very smart and she said this. What do you want to say?
Well, what I'd like to say, I would just say, just to encourage everyone to keep an open mind and to explore something that might not be familiar to you or from a different world of what you're used to. And so I think that's just what I wanted to share with everyone. And hopefully I'll see more of you on this side of the social media and to see more stories being made that could be sharing with the audience from China, because everyone is really eager to hear the stories, of of other cultures. And so I just hope there'll be more like bridge builders between cultures in social media. That's it.
Well, that is wonderfully said. And I thank you for your time. As always, it's a great conversation, and we will talk again soon. I appreciate you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Have
Great.
a good morning.
Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome. All right. Bye. I still have influence over there. I still have connections over there. I still have friends over there. And Heather's one of those friends that, I can go to and ask questions about, how to engage, how to be a bridge builder between social media and whatever it is that I want to do over there in terms of business. Because let's be honest, the American market and the Western market is kind of saturated when it comes to what you can do new on social media, what you can do new from a business perspective. And it's really about tapping into new markets. And the China market is new. So please be sure to understand that don't frown or snarl your nose up at the fact that you don't know what kind of social media accessibility is happening over there, but it's large. Believe that. It's almost 3 billion people. Social media is large on that side. The only difference is the most important thing that I would tell you about if you wanted to go that route, or at least do some research and get into it, would be the language. So it'll be a lot easier to be successful as a Westerner or as a foreigner if you speak the language, or if you can have your content translated into Mandarin or Cantonese. Okay. Also, learn the culture, a little bit of the culture. Don't go in there thinking, I'm a foreigner, they need to follow me. It's not like that anymore. You need to understand what they do, how they do it, why they do it, and why they don't do it, more importantly. So that's it. And that's our conversation for today. But we don't leave any episode with just conversation. We definitely have. Yeah, I had to let that one rock a little bit. So let's get back to the list portion of that show where we like to list things. I got a pretty short list for you today because I wanted to keep it short and concise. So today's list is going to be 5 reasons why you need to do business in China. The first reason is China has favorable government policies. And what that means is if you have money, you can probably get almost anything you need to get done. Also, there's not a lot of red tape that you have to go through if you know the right people. Okay? Number 2, facilitate entrepreneurial environment. Okay? So, in China, one thing you'll notice as soon as you land, most people own a business of some type, whether it's a grocery store, whether it's a boosting booth, whether it's a trade company, a restaurant. Just about every family has some type of business. So the entrepreneurialism there is phenomenal. I wish we were more like that in that way. Everybody has their own business. Now, with that being said, they work extremely hard. Okay. Number 3, the abundance of skilled talent. You have 2.5 or more people in a country. That is a large talent pool to choose from. There is no reason not to do business in China, or no reason not to attempt to do business in China. Number 4, the growth opportunity. Imagine, let's just say 2 billion people, and you only get 1% of that. That's 2 million clients. Let's just say you get 0.5%. That's 1 million clients, customers, followers, whatever. That's growth opportunity. Number 5, stability. It's easier to stabilize your business in China. Much easier. So, and that's our list for today. Those are the top 5 reasons to do business in China. But I'm also going to leave you with, instead of a quote, I'm going to give you trends. Okay, let's do something different a little bit. I'm going to give you the trends, the China trends, the business trends, the social media trends. First trend is paid social is overtaking organic brands on their own social media platforms. Okay. Number 2 trend, commercialization acceleration, moment ads, advertising promos. The 3rd trend, short videos in the spotlight. Young consumers are taking over the trends. Number 4, mass personalization, customizing content for target audience, right? So you find your audience, you find your target, you customize the content towards them on a large scale. Number 5, social media community economies, driving social commerce. So you got this big e-commerce boom, and it's all being driven by social media communities. These are your groups. These building economies. Okay. Number 6, social search ability, being easy to find on social media, has become a vital lesson for brands, meaning the hashtag, being able to be searched effectively and effortlessly, is a huge component to your social media success. Number 7, shortened path to purchase for reach to purchase. What was that? I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Shortened path to purchase from reach to purchase. Okay. So those are your current trends, social media trends, and that is going to be our episode for today. I want to thank our guest Heather for coming on and answering some questions or sharing her opinion, sharing her thoughts with us. Again, this is all about positivity, collaboration, humanity, unity, education, just evaluation, awareness. It's about all those things put into one. And again, these comments, these topics are all just from my mind. They are not wrong. They are not right. They are just in the mind of Gary. So I welcome you and thank you for listening. We wish you a great day, a great week, a great month, a great year. 2020. With that being said, I'm going to see you for the next episode.